Thanks again for everybody for joining. Thank you, Fraser, for sitting down with me. I'm really excited to speak with you and share about your company to the panelists. And again, a reminder, this is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel to be shared. And as always, T2M is actively raising on netcapital.com. And so you can go to netcapital.com and search for T2M and invest directly through the push of a few buttons. And I will also add a direct link in the chat for anybody to go visit there. Again, let's keep this as interactive as possible. So please do use that Q&A functionality. But let's go ahead and kick things off. So Fraser, before we go into the team and everything that you've been able to accomplish with the group that you've put together, let's start just by talking about T2M, the company, and the products that you offer.
Sure. Would it be appropriate for me to share my screen?
You may, yeah. Let me go ahead and open it up. Okay, all yours.
Good. So welcome, everybody. So today, what I thought I would do is put some meat on the bones about the market. Let's start with the market because this is one of the untapped markets that are out there. If we look at the entertainment world, everyone looks at the music industry or the global box office. The global box office is, well, last year was 38 billion. This year it's heavily depressed because of what's going on with the pandemic. So it's not fair to compare to this year. This year, for instance, in the USA, only 2 billion of box office revenue, whereas ordinarily it's around about 11 billion. The global music business is about 20 billion. 10 billion of that is streamed. So there's a total entertainment market of just under 60 billion. Whereas when you contrast it to the gaming industry, 175 billion will be the turnover this year. And of that, 86 billion will be mobile gaming. So the market that we are we're active in is an $86 billion market compared to the entertainment world of music and video being only 75% of that. The problem with mobile gaming, and it is huge, it's driven on the back of smartphones, smart devices, of which there's 2.7 billion active smart device users who claim to game on their smart devices, is the games are fairly simple. And they're simple for the very simple reason that you can only use 2 thumbs or 2 fingers. It's not sophisticated at all. And yet the quality of the smartphone, the power of the processors in smartphones, and indeed the quality of the screens suggests that a far more sophisticated game can be played. And there are more sophisticated games out there, such as Fortnite, which is currently suspended on Apple, but that's a different story, but it is available on Android. Call of Duty, which is available across all platforms. They're just 2 of the major marquee titles that you can play on your mobile devices. And these games are the exact same games that you would play on your consoles. What is required is more fidelity in touch. So we have created, and well, it's more than we've created, we are selling a range of full-size controllers which work with your mobile device. Now, what's unique about our product is we don't have Bluetooth, we're not battery operated, we have a direct link to the product and we draw our power from the device that we're playing on. So this makes it extremely low latency, which is perfect for competition gaming, but it's definitely superior for regular gaming. It also means there's no risk of dropping your connection, and there's no risk of dropping a connection because you run out of power. Now, we do occupy the power socket, but on the iOS, which is by far our biggest seller, the Apple product, we do have a power pass-through that allows you to charge your phone while you're gaming. So there's the market, there's our solution to the market. Just to let you know our performance to date. So we are the #1 bestseller on Amazon for standard controllers. With today's, we got 1,750 positive reviews. We're in Best Buy stores, the top 800 Best Buy stores. We're in the top 900 Target stores with an interactive display, which allows you to test the product before you go and buy. And we're also online at Walmart, Verizon, Carphone Warehouse in Europe, and we're in all Apple stores worldwide. So we are a global product. We're a global brand. So that's a flavor of who we are. But I think, Eric, you've got some questions you wanted to ask, and I have follow-up slides to help answer those questions.
Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. Let's just definitely keep this up. So, you know, you're definitely established. You're in the market. You're selling product, and you know, the kind of the key to any great company for a lot of investors is the team. So
Yep.
If you're open to it, Fraser, can we flash forward to that slide and tell us about yourself and the rest of the team members that are helping take T2M to the next level?
Absolutely. The team I'm going to show you is the executive team right now, but quite frankly, there's a lot more to the team supporting the executive team. So for myself, I've been in this industry on and off since the 80s. So the dawn of gaming until where we are today. I launched Sega and Nintendo in the UK with the retailer that I was working for. I worked up the ranks in that retailer and was living in Paris in the early 2000s as the director of global sourcing for the largest electrical retailer in the world at that time. They've since demerged. I found myself over here, and I've been, for the last 10 years, I've been totally focused on mobile gaming. I have 23 patents. There are 3 or 4 more in the pipe, pat pendings, which are going to be part of this group. The patents I own or hold, sorry, the inventions I have were with another company called Game Vice, which myself and the team were part of. We left when they sued Nintendo. So we're not part of suing people. We're part of building a brand. Vic Lee is the vice president of engineering. He's based in Taiwan. He has a reputation in this marketplace. He has people working for him who are in hot demand, mechanical engineers in particular. Also, we have, not on this slide, but we have Joshua, who is our director of design, and he focuses on all the design and the design elements and what have you. And between Vic's team and Joshua's team, they create the products, the exciting products that we have today and that we want to share with the group today. Jim Anderson's our CFO. He was previously at Cisco Systems as a vice president of venture capital, actually. And then Dan Dooley is on, he's a member of our board of managers. He is a very reputable patent attorney and has done some fantastic work with me in other organizations, but is doing some great work with us right now. Also on this slide is, we have a very special group of people that work for us in our RMA center. For folks that want to know what an RMA center is, that's our return to manufacturer. Retailers in the US have a mandate with their customers that if they buy something, if they can bring it back within a certain period of time, if there's any remorse. Those products, there's nothing wrong with them. So what we do is we have a contract with Amazon to sell renewed, but we have to put those into a particular condition before we can sell them on Amazon. So our central warehouse is based in Massachusetts. And the renew work is done with a special group of people that they have diverse skills, and they just need training and they need management. So we exclusively employ, with the exception of the warehouse manager, Rick, we exclusively employ a team of people that need a break, basically. So we're very proud of what they do, and they do a great job for us in Massachusetts. So that's the team, Eric.
No, I really do appreciate that, and it's great to see the experience on the intellectual property side, especially with Dan
Yeah,
and what they're working on there. I'd love to flash back for a moment, and I think that was really helpful just to frame the narrative. But I'd love to flash back for a moment. So I personally am a gamer. You mentioned Call of Duty. First-person shooters are kind of my weapon of choice, pun intended. Can you tell us a little bit about the esports marketplace? How big is it for those who don't appreciate just kind of the massive scale of what this has become in the sporting world?
sure. So the esports market, if we look at it in terms of people buying tickets to sit on, in 2019, there were 79 million Major League Baseball tickets sold. There were 83 million esports tickets sold in North America. So this is clearly a fast-growing sector, but it's going to be. They believe in about 5 years' time it'll be the largest sport in the world, which is really quite mind-boggling. The problem that we foresee is you've got the fastest growing sport, and the fastest, which is gaming, and the fastest growing sector in gaming is mobile, but no one is focused on mobile gaming esports. And that's where we come in. We have the product that can cope with the bandwidth required for a mobile esports tournament. So much so that we're working with ESL, which is the largest esports league promoter all across the globe. We're working with them, and we're going to do our first mobile esports tournament with Apple in the first quarter of next year. We had hoped to do it in the first quarter of this year, but we just weren't able to pull it together with what's going on with the pandemic. So that will launch in the first quarter of next year.
And with regards to the problems that you discussed, mobile is huge, gaming is huge, real gap between mobile gaming, and then with regards to connecting controllers to the mobile devices, we all know that, especially iOS, iPhones are supercomputers designed and really capable to do fantastic things in gaming. Apple's really leaned into the gaming space specifically. Can you talk a little bit more about that latency? For those who don't understand, as a gamer, latency or lag is something that is incredibly important, and trying to minimize that as much as possible really gives you a competitive advantage. But can you describe that a little bit for everybody?
Sure. So with Bluetooth, you have an encode and you have a decode stack, and then you have a transport of the signal. It adds roughly 100 milliseconds to what you're doing. When you hit that button, it's usually around about 100 milliseconds before it's registered, which in the ordinary world, you don't sense that. But some of these gamers are hitting that button, the collection of buttons, 15 times in a second, which, when you do the math, 100 milliseconds means that only 10 of those 15 shots are getting in. With our direct connect, we've measured it around about 2 milliseconds, which is immeasurable. You would have to be doing more than 50 trigger fires per second for it to start to be noticeable with the latency. And that's just a sheer fact that it's direct connected. There's no encoding, there's no decoding, there's no wireless transmission of a signal. It's a straightforward wired signal. So that's the latency. We're also working on trying to work out how we reduce the latency for mobile headphones as well. That's a different story. We do have on our roadmap, we're working on, and I can show the product. We are working on a set of mobile headphones or gaming headphones that have a similar degree of latency free. But the core of the business is the controller, and we stick to and maintain that the wired approach is the best approach, and that's been accepted by the esports community.
Yeah, absolutely. And the difference between 100 milliseconds and 2 milliseconds, that could be the difference between winning or losing a major tournament. When it comes to these
or just a game in your living room. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like when it comes to these really precise motions and mechanisms, that could be the difference. And
For sure.
and when we're talking about the difference between winning and losing, Can you share with the viewers here, how much really can be on the line? I think the magnitude of gaming really kind of is exemplified in these prizes, in these pots, so to speak. So, I mean, we're not talking about playing for pennies here, are we?
Well, interestingly, I do have a slide on that. Bear with me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see here the top 10 esports prize pool in 2019. Fortnite was $64 million. Dota was 46.7. I mean, so the actual amount of money that's on in play, and we just compare it to the top prize. The top prize was 3 million for Fortnite. There's only one prize pool that's higher than that, and that's the US Open. So it's a very, very serious business for these gamers, and it's to be taken seriously. And we've got some other stats here that we can share about how much it costs to get in. It's $99 for a whole weekend, but the fans they're just crazy for it. We're trying to find the way to get the mobile, and this is why we're working with ESL, to get the mobile gaming tournaments more streamlined. Obviously, there will be a need when the time is right to get into the arena and have all the fanfare, but there's all of the heats and the build up to that, which we can do from a mobile perspective.
Yeah, that really is exciting. And let's take a little bit deeper dive into the sales and the business model here. The business model seems relatively straightforward. You create a good and you sell it, but let's also talk about the companion app. Let's talk about controller sales and the companion app for a moment.
Yeah. So the controller sales right now, it's depressed. We're the number one seller on Amazon. We're outselling the market. We're performing extremely well, but we are trying to perform in a period of a pandemic and a period of mass shutdowns of retail. So we're pivoting to what we're doing on online, and we're seeing the sales growth come through. So we're having an exciting year of it. We wanted to have a better year. That will come to us next year when everything is straight and we can all get back into the rhythm of life. The companion app. So it's interesting. If you go onto the App Store, if you go onto the Google Play, you cannot filter by controller compatibility. So not all of these games are controller compatible. On Apple, there's around about 1,100 games which are controller compatible, and they're great games, but there's probably, I don't know, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 games that you could play. So we felt we needed to explain to the end user what games are controller compatible and what games are not. But we wanted to go further than that. We wanted to offer cheats and tips. We wanted to offer information. We wanted to offer other offers. So for instance, we have an affiliate deal with Apple whereby we earn percentages on all of the movies and all of the music and all of the books that are sold through our app. So we promote the movies that we think our audience would appreciate. Sonic the Hedgehog, we promoted when that movie came out on digital. And when the Star Wars box set came out, we promoted that as well. So we have an app that is more than just this companion letting you know what you can play. It does a lot more than that. And the plan is to build on that to make it more sticky, make it more of an app that people want to open every day, whether they're gaming or not. So we're working on a roadmap for that app to make it even more of an everyday app that people want to use. The map that you see, the purple are all the countries where we are currently have customers who use our app on a regular basis and is earning revenue for us in those countries. So it's not big, but it's got the potential to be massive.
Absolutely. And back to the controller for a moment here. You said gaming is a serious business now. There's no denying that. And there's serious money spent in the gaming space, especially with peripherals. a PlayStation or Xbox controller could go anywhere from $50 to a couple $100 for a single controller. Where does this controller fit in that cost comparison, the Roto Riot?
Sure. So we, first of all, to be MFI certified, you need to obviously buy not obviously, but the components we use, we have to buy from Apple. So the Lightning connector, we buy from Apple. This is not a third party connector. It's Apple's Lightning connector. The Lightning receptacle, we go back to that slide, the Lightning receptacle here, we also purchase from Apple. We also have to purchase the security ICs from Apple because we actually do part of the power management pass off. When you plug into our controller and then we pass that power management onto the phone, we have some communication that we have to have with the phone. And we have to do all of these things in order for Apple to certify our product for MFI. This allows us to put "Made for Apple" on our packaging and on our literature, and it got us great space within the Apple stores. That product retails for $50, which is the opening price point for quality controllers. Can you buy cheaper controllers? Yes, you can. Will they work with Apple? No, they won't. So this is the entry price point for an Apple certified product. We do have a roadmap which has us having extra features in the product to get the price point up, but we feel that it behooves us to remain as competitive as possible and be the entry price for quality Apple certified product.
Absolutely, thanks for that. So yeah, the price definitely aligns on the value play that you could possibly have in this space
Sure.
from a controller standpoint. And then we were talking about kind of the esports market. We are talking about the mobile gaming market. I'm sure you have a dedicated slide to exactly kind of you talked about how big it is and how you expect it to get larger. Can we circle back to that for a moment?
Sure.
Do you have data around the other major sports, NBA, NFL? I do remember seeing some research that talks about there's a situation where esports might eclipse all of those sports combined, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, and I don't have that slide here, but you're absolutely correct. The forecast is by 2025, esports will eclipse all sports to be the largest sport in the world. Right now, NBA is the only USA sport which registers in the top 5 of sports. F1 is the number 3. Soccer's number 1. Cricket's number 2. Actually, golf, I think, is number 4. So golf is a USA sport as well, and NBA. Esports is in the top 10 now, and it's going to be the number 1 sport by 2025. That's the forecast. Has there been a hiccup with what's been going on with the pandemic? Probably, but the hiccup applies to everybody. Right. So who knows how it's going to bounce back? Most people believe it's going to bounce back extremely strongly.
Yeah. Thanks for that. And I just want to, as a reminder, we're about halfway through the webinar now. Please continue to ask any questions in the Q&A functionality. Thanks again for joining us, for the attendees, and thank you, Fraser, as a panelist, for joining us as well. And do remember that I included a link directly to T2M's offering page on netcapital.com where you can go and invest. There's also more information there and an opportunity to ask questions through the landing page as well. But again, that's netcapital.com, and you can search T2M or go to netcapital.com/companies/T2M. So I'd like to plug that right in the middle. But this could be a good opportunity to kind of segue over to the future a little bit. And before we talk about, you talked about some kind of advanced features that you might be able to add to the controller to command a higher price point. I think I have an idea of what some of those might be as a gamer, but can we talk about what type of big picture advanced changes you might be able to make to the controller, as well as how virtual reality and augmented reality might fit into the future landscape?
Sure. So one of the biggest changes we're going to implement in the step-up product will be to add, certainly we're going to add some selected buttons which make the experience even better. One of the things that we haven't discussed is the fact that we can use our product to stream. You can play your PlayStation games on your iPhone by streaming them over the air to your iPhone, but you will need to have a controller. What we've done is we're adding buttons which are currently not in the MFI spec, but are in the PlayStation spec. So an options and select buttons we're adding, and they can be seen on this product. We're also adding an audio DAC, so you'll be able to take the music or the soundtrack from the Lightning connector and plug in your own headphones. And this is especially important because again, there's a latency issue with the headphones, and nobody notices when you play music on Bluetooth or you watch a video, everything's synced up, but you cannot deny when you hit, I don't know if you can see this, but when you hit that button, your brain knows you've fired a trigger or accelerated a car. You're expecting to hear it, but you don't. There's a latency lag. So we're looking to eliminate that with this particular model. There are other advancements that we have in the pipe, which we probably aren't going to share today, but rest assured, we've thought about the future. We've thought about the future of iPhone, and we're actually working with Apple directly. In fact, myself and Vic were on a conference call only last week with one of the top engineers in Apple to discuss projects 2023 and onwards. So we have an idea where they're going. It's wrapped up in a confidentiality agreement with them, and we're making sure that we're keeping pace with what they're doing.
That's fantastic, and I definitely wouldn't want you to violate any confidentiality. So I think that's a perfect balance right there, and really excited that it's iOS that you're going. They do seem to be the leader in gaming and visual graphics as well.
Well, and I will tell you, our current sales are around about 95 to 5, 19 to 1. It's skewed obviously because Apple don't stock Android, but we've got Android presence in Target, we've got Android presence in Best Buy. By far, Apple is the biggest seller.
That's good to know. Let's talk a little bit about other players in the space, if you don't mind. There are a couple other large peripheral manufacturers, peripherals being kind of a broad category of keyboards and mice and headphones for those who aren't super into gaming. Can we talk about what it looks like specifically in this sector from a competitive landscape standpoint?
Well, we weren't the first to do direct connected as a company, but we as the team, we were the first to do these products with GameVice. GameVice is no longer in the marketplace due to their activities, but the product itself has been licensed to Razer. So Razer are promoting a product. It's compromised by its size. It's compromised by its button layout, and it's compromised by its price point, which is $99. So I would say they are perhaps the closest competitor to us. There's another competitor, SteelSeries. They have a Bluetooth controller, which is more full size like our controller. We don't believe they've got the bracket right, and they're trying to sell that product for $69 right now. So they don't have the price point, they don't have the features, they don't have the product itself. Interestingly, we have had strategic conversations with SteelSeries. So that's jumping to your exit question. So let's go back. Sorry. You haven't asked the question.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't asked yet. But we're here. Why don't we pop over to that? We'll keep the flow going. So what exit strategies? Different players in the space, competitors that might be able to merge with. Let's actually go ahead and take a deep dive into the potential exit opportunities here.
So it's not such a deep dive. It's probably more of a shallow shallow dive, but
That sounds fine.
we're in this space. We're building a brand. We're building a market position for ourselves. Um, but that's attracting the interest of quite a few people. We have to make the decision when the time comes whether we exit to or we merge with these bigger players. It's an exciting moment right now. We saw a brand called Scuff, who all they did was take regular controllers and update them, upgrade them. You may have heard. Do you know Scuff? I see you
Oh yeah.
smiling. Right.
Oh yeah.
You know they've just exited. They sold for
Yeah.
138 million.
Yeah. Scuff Gaming, and then I think AIM controllers are kind of right there next to a very similar model.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But what did they do? They didn't create something new like us. They just modified existing controllers. So there's a lot of energy, a lot of excitement in this marketplace. So what we do feel is any exit that we do, the team that has built the company to date is part of that. It will have to be part of that exit. So it's interesting times. We've already had very interesting conversations. They have not stopped, but we have to plow our own furrow while these strategic conversations are going on.
Yeah, I think there's a very interesting things going on there. And when I was practicing at Cooley, we were representing Corsair on their IPO, and Corsair is actually the company that acquired
That's
Scuff
correct.
Gaming.
That's correct.
So really, really interesting play there. There's a lot of consolidation in many markets, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was more consolidation in this space as well. And one of the main advances that they made, and I'm not sure if this is some functionality that you might plan to include into T2M's future products, but it is that kind of the undercarriage buttons that they allow you to have, more than just your thumbs, but also work with your index and middle finger as well.
Yeah. So these are called L4, R4, L5, R5, and we didn't show you the undercarriage, but we've already designed. The mechanical engineers have designed those into the underside of the version 2 controller. Excuse me. The issue that we have with that is Apple haven't opened up the roadmap for having L4, L5, R4, L5. So what we're doing, one of the discussions we have with them is making them assignable. So if a gamer wants to move the L3 to L4, they can do. So having the real estate, having the facilities there is something that the functionality is being built in so we can future-proof.
No, that's fantastic to hear. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to nerd out too hard here, but as a gamer, I think that's a great advantage. I think that's something that people do have to appreciate and understand. And just like big picture, you can imagine that if most of the game takes place up here in the thumbs, there's only so much you can do. Adding the ability to do more down here and more down here from L4 and L5 and R4 and R5 really is a massive.
It's actually down here, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends on how you play. Yeah, I play a little bit. Yeah, some people play top or some people play bottom. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I think that there's the idea that you're thinking about that functionality and working that in. I think that's fantastic. Seeing the future and leaning into it.
Yeah.
Again, please, we want to keep this as interactive as possible. Please do not hesitate to add to the Q&A. I will just continue to talk game modifications and updates in the space with Fraser and have a good time until you interrupt me. But I think that's really, really important. We talked about acquisitions in the space. We talked about large component manufacturers going in and acquiring smaller component manufacturers. And I know you alluded to some of the success to date that you've had. You talked about the Amazon #1 selling controller and Amazon and your relationship with Apple. You mentioned Target and Best Buy. I really want to kind of go back to that for a moment, though, because that is a lot of traction. What you've been able to establish with Target and Apple, and I'd love to take a little bit longer on that. And maybe you could talk about some of kind of refresh us on some of that traction, what you're doing with F1, Formula One, and then things you're looking forward to happen in 2021.
So having those relationships has been an advantage in allowing us to pre-sell, for want of a better word, some of our ideas. We've just closed the deal with Shell in Europe. They will be promoting, this is their version, or our version. This is the version they want to stock in all of their Shell garage outlets. It will be a product that if you buy a tank of gas, you can get a discount off this product. It will work with Shell, actually have a racing game. And if you buy a tank of gas, you get a discount off a Baragu die-cast car, and you can race that car in their game, and they'll be promoting our controller as well for that purposes. So, so what we've got in terms of a roadmap, our current product will run until Q3 of next year. We will have an 1852, which is identical to the 1850, but with those extra 2 buttons that we talked about. The 2020 for the iPad, we're targeting end of Q2. The F1 product will be end of Q2 as well. The Alpine product will be, it's just a color difference. So we'll have that quite early. We're not allowed to sell it before April, which is the start of the new season. So that we could have it earlier, but it's not going to be until the beginning of Q2. And then the Shell deal is for Q4 and beyond. So the orders will be coming through in Q2, we'll be building in Q3. You'll see it in the market in Q4.
That's very exciting. And those color schemes are fantastic. You must have a great design team on hand. So I really like those upgrades. I think the Shell one especially looks phenomenal.
Yeah, so Joshua's he's got his work cut out for him. He's got some folks reporting to him, but it's a great crew, and they're gamers. So they know what gamers want.
Oh yeah, and just so people know, is there going to be a premium charged for the kind of racing stripe model and the Shell model, or are those going to be the similar price point?
So with the Shell model, they'll want to price that at what is a premium price so that they can show special, great offer when it probably won't sell at all. It will be given away. It's a premium product, therefore they'll want to keep the price up. With the Alpine product, there's a fee to pay for the license. And to put Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon, who's the other racing driver for that team. But, that's a negotiation. Are we spending the money on marketing, or are we putting the money into the profit margin? So, we're working that through with the retailers as we speak.
That's great. I do. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And gamers will spend on upgrades to their products. Even microtransactions and upgrading your characters
Let's talk Scott.
Yeah, exactly. Identity goes a long way in the gaming space. So these upgraded visuals, that makes a lot of sense in the space.
Well, interestingly, just one last note on that. One of the things that we are going to be doing is we're working on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to try this out. We've got a program and a tool that can cut these skins for us quite cheaply. Are they going to be promotional skins? Are they going to be skins that we can sell? It's something that we have investigated and are investigating. To make sure that we're staying real to what our market and what our market demands.
That is very cool. I like that's Call of Duty in the middle there, right?
That is indeed. You know your games.
I think, but the Sonic one is the '90s baby in me really resonates with that.
Yeah, that's still one of the top games today. You can play the original '90s Sega Mega Drive version of that game on your phone with our controller.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm gonna have to go look that up for sure. Yeah, I think the Genesis was my first console. All right, we're moving along. Let's talk a little bit about use of proceeds. Again, you are actively raising capital on the Netcapital platform. You can go to netcapital.com and search T, the number 2, and M, the same way you see in the bottom right corner of your screen here. And so big picture, how do you plan on using the funds that you're raising?
So I think we explain that on the portal, but to
Mm-hmm.
share it with the folks listening today, I mean, our roadmap here is going to take a bit of tooling. The tooling that we use, we're not buying stuff off the shelf. We're designing product and we're building it. No other product will look and act and perform like the products we have. The tooling sets cost anywhere between $100,000 to $200,000, depending on the quality of the materials you use and how many tools are required. Our current controller has about 12 different tools as a set in order to create one controller. You have to imagine that the D-pad has a tool, the triggers have a tool, the buttons have a tool, the top has a tool, the bottom has a tool, the bracket that holds everything together has a tool, the skeleton inside that holds the PCB and stuff like that. Everything requires its own tool. It's unique. We're not buying anything off the shelf, and therefore those tooling sets cost money. We've already invested in 2 tooling sets for our Android and for our iOS. We need to invest in one for the Formula One. We need to invest in for the iPad version. We need to invest in updating the tooling that we currently have. We need to invest in our operations. We're expanding. So next week we move into a warehouse which is twice the size of the one we're currently in. So there's constant expansion plans. There's constant need to invest in the product, the people, and the market.
Absolutely. That makes a bunch of sense to me. As we get back to the new normal, whatever that looks like post-pandemic, and we get back into the stadiums and really start selling out crowds again. I want to say it was League of Legends that sold out Staples Center. I want to say for their competitor, for their match. I'm not actually sure which game it was, but one of those games, they draw massive crowds. Do you see a world where the viewers, the kind of the concert goers, if you will, that are participating and watching the games actually do come with your controller, and maybe they're allowed to participate in some part of the game, real time with these ultra star gamers? Is that part of the future? Maybe.
Yeah, that's absolutely part of the future. Are we an undercard on one of the top games? Probably most likely, until we start creating tournaments big enough that we're exclusively just the product. But just let me say something. I've been very lucky to have worked in this and other ancillary industries for the best part of 35 years. When I was at Kingfisher in Europe, we were the largest retailer of entertainment in the 90s in the whole of Europe. And as such, we did an awful lot of research on consumers and what it is they liked and what it is they didn't like. We knew Blockbuster was going to fail. We knew Netflix was going to succeed. The one thing that Netflix doesn't have that Blockbuster did have was the social piece. People loved to go and pick their video. They just hated to return them. And so it's the same with spectator sports. People love to be with people. We want that social piece. And that's what's lacking in the world today, is we're missing out on that social piece. We can't rely on Facebook and living in our pods and our cocoons. There's going to come a time where we're going to want to break out and be back to normal and be with everybody. And I think esports is going to be one of those healing mechanisms for the world to get back into these environments.
That's a great sentiment.
I really speech there. I didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
No. I think you're right. I think we are social beings. We like to be around each other, even when we're. I think there's something interesting about how there are people that consume content from these content creators, these gamers that stream online, and thousands of people will watch it live. And I think there's something about, even though you're remote, just you're kind of experiencing it in real time with other people still. There's that connectivity that people are looking for. So I think you're absolutely right. Fraser, in these last couple of moments here, I like to open it up and just say, you know, closing remarks kind of play here. So are there any last things that you'd like to include, either around your product or around your views for the future? What's kind of the last information that these investors need to know of why they should join your team and invest?
So actually, let's just go back to the market. Look, I said this right at the beginning. We are playing in the largest entertainment sector, and we're playing in the largest sector of the largest entertainment sector. And it shocks people when I say these things, whether it's in official meetings. In January, I invited Target to our suite at CES, and the buyer came with a whole delegation. And the first thing she said to me was, before you go any further, I believe this is a 2022, 2021 product. We're not ready for this in 2020. And I said, okay. And I brought her to part of this. I mean, it wasn't this presentation because this has got updates in it, but I went through the market with her. She had no clue. A lot of the buyers I'm dealing with are accessory buyers. They're not gaming buyers. The gaming buyer doesn't want to know about mobile games because they're motivated on profit, and they make all of their profit from selling software. They don't make any profit from selling hardware. And so therefore I am bad news because I'm promoting something that draws away from their profitability. But that's like King Canute saying the tide will not come in. I'm the tide, and I'm coming in, and the market is showing that. Our sales are showing that. Interest in the product from a consumer point of view is showing that. And Target went one better than just to say, well, we'll range you. They didn't put us online. They didn't just put us in store. They put us in store with an interactive display. That wasn't cheap, but it was a great investment for us. And had there not been a pandemic, we could just see hundreds of people crowding the stores, playing their games, and buying the product. So, you know, and that will come. So that's really my message. This is a massive, massive opportunity that is untapped, and so few people are aware of it. But these are not my charts. These are charts that I've lifted off Newzoo's. Anyone can go to newzoo.com and see this exact chart. I haven't reproduced it. I've just cut and pasted it. This is a very dynamic market, and we're a big part of it, and we just need to grow.
I think that's a perfect way to end it there. And esports is really leaning into the next generation of athletes too. I know UCI in my backyard is one of the first colleges to offer esports scholarships. More and more colleges and universities are recruiting athletes, these esports athletes, and bringing them into the fold and grooming them. And so, you know, I think it's really exciting. The whole world has really rallied around esports as a kind of a force. And so, you know, being in there, having a component that's actively selling, it's a really exciting time for T2M.
Thank you.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for all the participants who joined. Thank you for asking your questions. Again, the link is in the chat, but you can visit netcapital.com and search T2M, or go to netcapital.com/companies/T2M, and you can invest directly there. Fraser, thank you so much for joining me and hanging out with me. I look forward to gaming with you in the future.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for your interest.
Bye.
Bye-bye.